the advent of digital textbooks in schools. What's the problem? Well, just a bit of a background. This school district that I'm talking about has adopted the open door policy not as a proactive step, but more as a reluctant reactive step to what's already happening. Students already bringing technology to school. So they're saying, well, how can we use this? The school district that has a particular school that I'm talking about, and this particular school has a technology committee. It's been meeting looking at what the future of technology will look like in this school. The school also has a vast majority of teachers who are 50 plus, while administrators are at least 10 years younger, creating a little bit of resistance there to new ideas. The school has a bunch of technology. It's got 3 labs, netbook carts, iPads, iPods, but only a fairly basic wireless network. And in terms of external factors, the Common Core state standards are being enacted in the 2014-2015 school year, and no current texts actually adequately support the new curriculum. So what is the problem? Well, the need for new textbooks can be best met through the use of a digital text, but the infrastructure for the development and use of these texts does not exist at the school, and probably in any school really. What's the purpose of the video? The purpose of this presentation is to outline a plan for the implementation of an online textbook program. So, what's going on? Well, first of all, teachers are hesitant to adopt changes. Research shows that teachers are pretty much using the same tools they've been using for the last 150 years. They don't like change, generally. Not everybody has access to technology. Technology is expensive. People who don't have the money can't afford it. Nothing is cheap. Technology costs have increased 300% in the last 10 years. And this is only likely to increase. That budget is stretched. Right now, professional-made textbooks, they're trying to charge pretty much the same cost as they do for a paper textbook, not allowing for the fact that they don't have to print it, that they don't have to deliver it, there's no cost of shipping. And that's unrealistic. Teachers could make their own, you think. Well, they don't really have the skills all the time to make their own textbooks all the time. That's something it's not insurmountable, but it exists as a factor. So what can we do? Well, how about we redesignate some of the funding from redundant technology purposes, like desktops, to upgrade infrastructure, putting in a wireless network that will actually support everyone having a tablet. And then purchase some tablets. And while we're at it, rather than spending $1,000 on a new Apple iPad, how about buy something that's running on Android? Some of these Android tablets can cost as little as $200 or $300. And there is technology, there is software specifically designed for Android to write textbooks, educational textbooks. One example is a piece of software called Mentano, which means learning. The other interesting thing that schools should be doing is looking at the possibility of making these textbooks and then selling them to other schools. Why does textbooks have to be a budget negative? Why can't it be a budget positive? How would this happen? Well, in the first year, that technology cadre I was talking about, they could make a working group. Or, alternatively, you could use a group like the math department. Math departments can break their work up into small texts rather than one big long textbook, so they can make a bunch of little texts. And they're going to be motivated. They know the Common Core is coming, and they know textbooks are not adequate. They're not up to it. And they're not likely to come out anytime soon. That particular working group can then be giving constant updates to the broader staff about how the process is going and what it looks like, and showing them their work and getting feedback and critique for it. And then once they finish something and produce it, get it out there and get the staff to play with it. Get the staff to realize how much fun that is and how positive that can be as a learning experience for their students. In the second year then, broaden that a little bit. Include 2 other departments. Volunteers like, say, the English and Science department, who you know are also under the same pressure, the same time crunch, the same Common Core standards they're coming in. Once they've had a go, and you've got a body of teachers, almost half the school by then, who know how it works, in year 3, let's get everybody on board. Whole school implementation. And this is the point where you look at possibly selling what you've made. Not only have you had it around for a couple of years, you've tried it, you've used it, you've road tested it. Let's see what other people think of it. What does the research say? Well, one of the most key things in this idea is making sure that anything you make is based on solid pedagogy, solid instructional design theory. My favorite example is Dick and Carey. I liked it so much that when I had to make my own theory, that was the one I pulled most from. My theory takes Dick and Carey's just into the 21st century. Rather than talking about a nebulous where are students and where are we going, we're talking about standards. What is the standard we have to achieve in 7th grade? Where are they and how do we get them there? The other thing the research tells us is that technology is motivational. Throwing a tablet in front of a kid is motivational. Ask my 2-year-old. He'll spend hours playing on the iPad, just touching buttons. He doesn't know what the apps do, but he doesn't care. It's fun. These textbooks have the added advantage of being multimodal, rather than printed text on a white page with an occasional picture. It can have video. It can have sound. It can talk to you. It can read to you. Not only that, it can be interactive. Rather than talking about a concept and showing pictures of it, let's use it. Let's show a science experiment. Let's fill up a little bit extra in the beaker and see what happens. Let's use one of those math manipulatives on a tablet rather than going and hunting for a bunch of dice and whatever. Why do we want it to be multimodal? Because we know, according to Gardner, that we all don't think the same way. We all have different intelligences, different areas that we're stronger and weaker. This leads us to the idea of different learning, different ways of learning. Visual literacy, the idea that some huge proportion, 60-80% of what we learn visually. That includes reading, that includes watching, that includes seeing. We take the majority of our input into our brain visually. Why don't we harness that? Why don't we give an interactive video presentation rather than words on page? My favorite piece of research is by a guy by the name of James Paul Gee, who wrote a textbook, or an information book, called What Video Games Have to Teach Us About Learning and Literacy. And basically, the underlying premise is this question. Why is it that a student will spend 6 hours playing a computer game, solving incredibly complicated, difficult problems that they'll spend hours researching the answers to, yet won't spend 10 minutes doing their homework? How can we harness that? How can we make the school experience more interesting? By making it student-centered. The most powerful way to embed technology in school, according to the research, is for student-centered learning rather than teacher-centered teaching. Benefits of the plan. What's going to happen? Well, the textbooks are going to be up to date rather than 20 years old. The current algebra textbook that I'm using in my math class is 20 years old. It talks about things like the Soviet Union, West Germany, the Berlin Wall. What? Or what's going to happen in the millennium when the millennium bug hits? What? Our students don't know anything about that. They were born after it. It's going to have interactive learning. Kids will be able to play with it rather than just read it. They'll be able to highlight things. It can be purpose designed by teachers, not textbook authors. Not people worrying about a word count. Not people worrying about the cost of printing. As I said earlier, technology is motivational. Kids love to play with technology. Even the technophiles will play with an iPad for hours. It has the potential to be cost-saving, rather than spending $120 on each textbook. Write the thing yourself. And hey, even better, sell it. Make money. Schools are strapped for cash. Wouldn't this be a great way to help that out? And you can update it. You don't have to just print it once and then, oh no, it's no good, throw them away, make a new one. No. Put in the change, send through an update, everybody updates, and all of a sudden it's good. So all of that new science that's constantly coming out, new math ideas, new videos, new trends. Hey, the next Harry Potter comes out, let's embed some of that. You can put it in there, increase the motivation, make it relevant to the students of the day. And on that note, teachers can personalize instruction. I'm an Australian. I have a certain viewpoint on things that I can add in there on my students' textbooks. It's going to be different to someone who's never lived overseas. I'm going to have a perspective that I can share, and I can embed it in my textbook and show kids, even in a subject like math, how the world looks different from the outside. Most interesting to me is the idea that research is telling us that the same things that make good technology instruction are exactly what's needed for equity-based learning. Whatever we need to give these kids to make technologies work well are the same thing we need to make sure everyone has access to it. Gender-based, culture-based, race-based, all of those things. By providing a multimodal learning experience, it's accessible to all. How do we make it happen? Well, training. The biggest impediment to any sort of technology is training. Not just training in the software, but training in the pedagogy. What does technology-appropriate pedagogy look like? How do we learn to design textbooks that are technology-based correctly? We also need to start spending money on things that matter. Rather than buying computers, let's upgrade the wireless network. Let's spend thousands of dollars having a state-of-the-art wireless network that everyone can get on, rather than waiting 30 minutes to log into it because we've exceeded our maximum load. Most importantly, stop thinking about it and get out there and do it. If teachers don't start doing this now, we'll miss the boat. Someone will have done it already. And here's the references. Have a good look.